So good morning again for those who maybe joined us later via Zoom. Just want to let you know we were having a little bit of technical difficulty, so we started at it a little bit of a different time. I'll leave it there at the right time. So my name is Reverend Angela Denton, and I welcome you. And this morning we're going to continue the series, The Universe Always Has a Plan, based on the book, The 10 Golden Rules of Letting Go, and that book was written by Matthew Kahn. And today we are going to explore Golden Rule number 9. But before we do, I'm going to just do a quick review of what we spoke about last week when we explored Golden Rule number 7. You know, we started off with a little humor about what does it mean, quote unquote, to be ultra spiritual, right? And then we said that it touched upon some of those truths, right? It wouldn't be so funny if it wasn't true. Now, yes, there was a lot of exaggerations in that video from J.P. Sears, but then we looked at sometimes the misperceptions that we may hold sometimes about the spiritual journey. And that it's not really spiritual to focus on the human condition. Don't focus on that. Don't focus on your body. Or it's not very spiritual if you don't walk around all day long affirming positive thoughts nonstop, right? You have that. If anything else gets in that, you're going to get zapped, right? We must hold those positive affirmations and thoughts 24/7. Now, of course, what we hold in consciousness, we attract ourselves to, but we also don't bypass the human condition, right? And so it's important for us not to deny our emotions, to stuff them, pretend that they're not there. And we also looked at, is it spiritual to dislike people? Is it spiritual to dislike circumstances, right? So how do we hold those poles of our humanity, but then respond from our divine nature rather than our ego, as Paula spoke of, right? So beautifully this morning. And so golden rule last 7, was that it is okay to dislike, right? And Matt Kahn says, and it just so happens that we're having technical difficulties with me and with Matt back there, so it's a good thing. A teacher always has a backup plan, so I'm going to continue. In the words of Matt Kahn, he said, and I shared this with you last week, I think it's a very common misperception or misunderstanding that in order to embody love, you have to like everyone and everyone. And all too often, the ego believes if you could learn to like your experiences, it will mean that you will have less pain. Now, mind you, right, the more you are mindful, the more you are ready, you can recognize what's up for you and do that discernment. You do that more quickly, and the shift is quickly. You choose again more quickly, right? You acknowledge it. And then Matt also shared a definition of dislike. And he said, dislike is the recognition that you are acknowledging that something seems foreign to your core values. Something, either what is I'm in the midst with, someone might be lying, whatever that may be, and I am feeling dislike, and that's a signal for me, this is not in alignment with the truth I believe or what I value. Or it could also signal the way I'm behaving is not in alignment with my own core values and the truth I say I profess, right? And we also, I'm doing this really quickly because we're going to go through those steps again in a moment. We explored how you can be present with that dislike and process it in a way where we are connected to what we value and we live and respond. That's the key word. When we are reacting, we are in ego, right? When we can respond in a way where we are living, harmonizing ourselves, our thought, our mind, and the power of love, which is to live from our divine nature, the best, from the best that we can, right? And instead of stuffing our dislike or projecting it onto others, right, then we know both poles were coming from our ego. And we will know that we are a reaction to our dislike if we are engaging in such things as gossip, criticism, condemnation, where we have that smoldering resentment inside of us. Who, me? Not me. And where we can, even in our behavior, act in cruel ways. And in some cases, it can lead to violence. And I don't mean just violence like where you're physically attacking somebody, but we can verbally do some kind of sarcasm and harshness with our words. So that leads us now, if we thought it was not spiritual to embody dislike, wonder how you feel about anger. Anger. How many of you find it difficult to express anger? I see a couple shakes. I see a raising of hands. I don't know if anybody in the back there is putting maybe yes in the chat, Matt? Okay. All right. So we're going to explore the dense emotion of anger, right? Every emotion has a vibration, a frequency. We feel it in our bodies if we are honest. And so how do we acknowledge this anger? And what is it trying to tell us? So in the book, Matt shares, as you already know, he shared that he grew up in a very dysfunctional childhood, and often things got, excuse me, volatile. His parents would engage in screaming matches, and it wasn't just a once in a while occasion. And so he tried all kinds of coping mechanisms where, as a young child, he would run and hide, be invisible, don't make any waves, so that you wouldn't be blamed for something, or you wouldn't be a sitting duck to the anger that was exploding in his midst. And as he got older, he then tried on being the referee, where he was trying to discern which one was more in the right. And then he would try to intervene and give a dissertation as to why they were right and why the other parent should stop. And what would happen then, he would get the wrath of the other parent that he was kind of not taking sides with. And then he, at one point, even tried reasoning, and then he found himself speaking with his own anger. So now you have 3 people screaming at the top of their lungs. To no avail, right? None of that led to him feeling that he was coming from a place of peace, centeredness, or did it do anything in the midst of the situation? Even though we are powerless over people and places, we saw a demonstration this morning as we turn to prayer for technology, right? Our vibration has the power to affect or influence. So Matt shares that in each and every instance, he would retreat into his room, sobbing in anger and misery, exhausted by the 12-round emotional battle that he was never equipped to win. And he said that anger And the hostility, the volatile hostility, led to him experiencing either low grades or high grade anxiety in his life. And he said it also contributed to states of medical debilitation in his parents. His parents were sick a lot, got very serious diseases, and they actually died at a very young age. And he said it is energy zapping, which takes us to golden rule number 9, right? That projecting anger drains you of your energy. Not only does projecting it outward drain you of your energy, but stuffing it down and letting it smolder also drains your energy. And he says it's okay to dislike, but when it becomes a projection or a stuffing of anger, it means you are allowing dislike to control you. And if you project anger, no matter what the effect it has on others, it will always drain you. You are experiencing that. And Eric Butterworth would agree. Eric Butterworth is a beloved Unity, he was a beloved Unity minister and an author of several books. And he agrees with Matthew Kahn, and he states this: you know, there are 2 ways in which most people deal with difficult problems that they meet. First, to outwardly rebel, to fight back, tit for tat, the eye for the eye, you can't do that to me, consciousness. I think that was in Paula's story. Then you give a person a piece of your mind, P-I-E-C-E. Along with it, perhaps give him, her, they, the peace, P-E-A-C-E, of your mind. This person seldom has emotional problems because he, she, they immediately gives vent to his, I'm just going to say the pronoun that Butterworth used, and you can put your pronoun in there, okay? Passion of anger, but he perhaps may not be aware of the fact that he's polluting the atmosphere around him with his regurgitated poisons, and his own creative potential is weakened by his leaky boiler. And the second way in which difficult problems are normally met is to rebel inwardly, to bristle up. Maybe we go into those passive-aggressive modes, but to do nothing outwardly, thinking dark thoughts and keeping them all bottled up within. And of course, as we know, this person has great emotional problems. He, she, they rarely flares up with people. He, she, they rarely reacts outwardly, but his inward fires, his seething or slow, smoldering rage may give rise to mental and physical problems that can require extensive and expensive treatment, not just monetarily. And you may be thinking, what was done to me? I am righteous in my anger. And you have a perfect right to your anger and resentment, but you also have the right to and the responsibility for the insomnia, the hypertension, stomach upset, heart and circulatory problems that will surely follow. So, how do we deal with our anger? How do we cope with our anger where we're not being the referee, where we're not hiding, we're not smoldering, we're not vomiting on people? And so you will notice the 4 things that I shared with you last week. As we were able to process dislike, we use the same process to embrace our anger and move through it. So we have acknowledge and accept, feel and experience, reflect and understand, discern and choose. So first, let's take a look at acknowledge and accept. right? We acknowledge our anger. Yes, I know I am so spiritual and I walk on water, and yes, I do experience anger, right? Yes, even spiritual people feel angry. We don't talk about it. I know we always go to the example in the Bible with Jesus where he, was in the temple and he threw the money and, the collectors, the tax collectors. But there are other examples, right? But we also know he gave us the model of how to live from within, how to not only allow to love ourselves, to be aware of our divinity, to honor the mystery of what we call God that is greater than us, and then to show up as that presence. So I'm going to share these three, also acknowledge these three meanings that when anger shows up, to acknowledge that it could be one or all of these things. So from Matthew Kahn, we get that anger is the energy of an eruption of unexpressed passion, where you're denying yourself that which wants to be expressed. And passion is our power of, who knows, anybody here? Zeal. Donna, awesome. It is our passion, our creative energy, what lights us up, right? Which is closely related to our desire, which is our power of love, our dreams, our divine ideas, right? And then we have from the Berkeley Institute, the Behavioral Institute, that anger is the emotional response that we have to an external or internal event perceived as a threat, a violation, or injustice. We've been wrong. Something's not fair. Life isn't fair. Life is tough. Life sucks. All things are happening in my life because of you or they or this, right? Now, there are real things that are going on in the world where people are being violated and treated violently and not honored as sacred. But then how do we respond, right? And then we look at, from the Gottman Institute, that anger is a response to undealt emotions. They call it the anger iceberg. That underneath the water are all of those emotions that we have never allowed ourselves to fully feel. And then it's like the slow kettle, boom, exploding, right? So we acknowledge our anger, we acknowledge what it is, instead of going into, how could I be angry? I can't be angry, so on and so on. And then we move into feel and experience. Where is it showing up in my body? If I could give it a color, what color would be? Some would say red, some would say black, whatever it may be. What shape does it take? And then go into somatic release, right? Because we can't get into the discernment when our reptilian brain is triggered. Yes, we can, again, like dealing with everything, prayer and meditation is a given. I'm giving other tools, right? To embrace our humanity and to be centered in our divinity. So somatic release, somatic is anything to do with the body. Maybe you do tapping. Maybe you just go for a fast walk or a jog. Maybe you punch your pillow. Maybe you go in a place where there's nobody outside in the room and you just scream at the top of your head, right? You say, well, that's crazy stuff, right? Well, is it more crazy to like just, take things out on your pet, your spouse, your friend, the driver before you? So on and so on. Even painting or dancing, all of that are ways that we move that energy so that we can move into the third step, which is to reflect and understand, right? Sometimes it's hard. We got, our brain, our higher, our divine, the superconscious mind is being hijacked. It's always, we're always connected to source, but when we are hijacked in our amygdala, we are not feeling the vibe. We're not in that experience, right? So then there's two things in reflecting and understanding: our spiritual power of understanding, seeking to understand from a higher level, not in the reflexive way. So what has been your coping strategy? We all, I went over what Matt did. He would go hide, that's the flee, right? Then yelling back is the fight. We can become frozen. And they've added in their studies, because we all find a coping mechanism when we perceive a threat, right? So there's the fight, flight, freeze. There's people please, right? Let me make peace for everybody, and everybody has to be happy. And then there is annihilate. There's something that physically happens in the body which leads to people, the anger, where there's a policeman on somebody's neck and their anger is so intense they go offline. Next thing you know, it's annihilation. A life has been lost. There's been studies about what happens. Do you become a invisible peacemaker, people pleaser, or so on and so on? And then what is it here to reveal for you, right? Within everything we experience in emotion, there's a message there. What is it trying to tell me? Where am I feeling that something is unjust, not fair in my life? Have I had a belief that I've been betrayed, violated? Where am I feeling unsafe? And sometimes that's real. I'm not talking about, domestic violence or physical abuse. Yes, you must do what you need to do to go. But I'm also talking about, let's say you were raised within an Italian household. And it got loud, not like maybe Matt Kahn's, but, I would hide. My father would call us in. He mellowed as life went through. Don't we all learn and grow? But I would cringe when he would call us for dinner. Angela, Steven. I'm like, I don't know that guy. First it would be low, and then it would escalate. Right? So, what do we do with that when we feel unsafe? Now, he wasn't going to do anything horrible to any of us, but, our body reacts, and we have that feeling of being unsafe. And anger is very much also connected to feeling and believing you are powerless, that there's nothing you can do, you are stuck. So now we move into discern and choose. And discern and choose, what are those two spiritual powers? Our discerning power is, sometimes it's called the discerning power, it's wisdom. At one point it was called judgment, but because judgment had too much baggage, it turned into wisdom and discernment, right? And will is our power of choice. It's also willing, to be willing. So as we look at discern and choose, now we say, what do I really have power over? Because it's false that I have no power. I might not be able to change how someone else is showing up, how the job market is and all that. But what do I have dominion over? And what is it? Our thoughts, our actions, who we will be in that. It doesn't mean we don't say no and we don't act on our no, but how are we showing up in that no? How are we showing up if we leave the relationship that's not safe? And then we move into how may I meet my needs? And here the needs are related, when it's related to anger, is of safety, of justice, empowerment, and compassion. Those two, moving into that place of self-compassion for yourself and asking, how may I empower myself? How may I claim my dominion right here and right now? And we could do that by saying, what unexpressed desire, our power of love, right? Divine ideas and our power of zeal, passion, is wanting and seeking expression. What am I now? What do I believe that I can't do because of this situation or this person? And then what's one small action once I've identified that I can take to creatively express my desire, my passion. And how can I creatively express it and do it today? I might not have the whole dream end goal, but there's something I can do to be passionate today. And that's by taking authentic action. So as we take a deep breath in and out, I invite you to not just experience dislike, your emotion of anger, but all of them. You know, I love, and I say this a lot, Michael Singer's definition about the, being in the experience of the emotions. It's like being in an orchestra, being present to the very low notes of sadness, the intense notes of anger, and the exhilarating notes of joy and love, right? Sometimes in our experience, we can experience many of them all at the same time, but we know that we have the power to choose. And so I end today by sharing a poem that was written by Unity author and minister Robert Brummett. It is called The Gift of Rage. I am your anger. I am your rage. I have come to show you what you truly need. I have come to show you where your power lies. I've come to reveal the passion that lives within you. I am life expressing. I'm not ugly, so do not hide me. Be honest, yet be mindful and intentional when sharing me with others. I am part of the beauty that you are. Do not fear me. As you accept me as part of who you are, you will learn how to fulfill the desires, express the power, and experience the passion that gives you life, the meaning and the purpose which you seek and which seeks you. Namaste, and have a blessed week.
And please join me in reading our affirmation. Centered in spiritual understanding, wisdom, will, and dominion, I dismantle the meaning of anger when it arises. As I claim dominion over my thoughts and emotions, I mindfully make choices that heal me and empower me to creatively live from my divine nature. We are powerful beings. So it is now that time in our service where we have the opportunity to share our financial blessing with our wonderful, beloved community. And take a moment and read aloud, those of you present, divine love as me blesses and increases all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. And if you take a moment to recite that silently. One more time out loud. Divine love as me blesses and increases all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. So if you've been giving your love offering electronically, you can continue to do so. You can go to the link that's shown on the screen.